Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Rodney, just wouldn't have felt right leading into you with anything other than that song, right?
Yeah. Well, I was kind of wondering what was going on there for a second, but hey, I'm always open to change.
A rare gaffe by Joe. That's all. That's what that was, but he fixed it. But listen, our Rewind segment with Scott Moore today, I want to get a quick thought from you, as I always do, was 1973. Remarkable season. Opened the season against Vince Ferragamo and Cal, closed it against Notre Dame and Tom Clements. Quite different results there. In between, had the game against Virginia Tech with 773 rushing yards, which was or 743 rushing yards, which was then an NCAA record, 828 total yards. I thought it was one of Coach Bryant's best teams, but it ended so painfully in that Sugar Bowl on New Year's Eve in New Orleans.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it really did, man. I was 13 years old, Corpus Christi, Texas, huge Alabama fan, very excited about that game. It got me, and I shared this story with Gary Rutledge, who was a starting quarterback on that team.
He was.
Just a few years ago, speaking at one of the engagements here at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and talked to Gary about it, and I had got a Gary Rutledge jersey for Christmas. That's what I wanted. And I'll never forget Gary standing. I know you did the same thing. I know you're going to laugh, but out there before the game in the front yard, pretending to be Gary Rutledge, running the option. You know how it was back in the day.
Absolutely. Playing invisible football by yourself, yeah.
Absolutely. And Alabama scored every single time. And it was such a disappointing game. It was so back and forth. It was really, if you're a spectator, one of the great games of all time. But it was so, disappointing as an Alabama fan. So many different things happened in that game that probably one or two plays had gone differently. The outcome would have been, changed. But, Notre Dame prevailed, and it's a game that is stuck in, a lot of Alabama's fans' craws for a long time.
Those kind never go away. And Tom Clements to Robin Weber out of the end zone when Dave Casper was the primary receiver. Weber hadn't caught a pass the entire season. And
guess what? He never caught another one. He was only a sophomore. He never caught another pass in his career. Had a neck injury, I think. But Robin Weber never caught another ball.
How is that making your one catch count right there, buddy?
It's amazing.
It is.
Amazing.
Incredible. It was an incredible game and incredible season. Hey, we got some recruiting news. On Friday, Alabama still only has 4 commitments, but my gosh, they're going to need wide receivers, and they get Ja'Cory Brooks out of Booker T. Washington in Miami, 6'3", 185, to join A.J. Hall out of Valerico, Florida, 6'3", 190. So a couple of those Sunshine State receivers who are not only outstanding receivers, got a lot of size, too. What do you know about Brooks? And it seems like it's a nice pickup for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I think it's a real big pickup for Alabama because wide receiver, and we've talked about this, Gary, many times on your show, one of the priorities to me, as I look at it, it's wide receiver. I think that's pretty easy to see because you lost those 2 this year. You're going to lose Waddle and Devontae Smith after next year. So it's really a priority for this the recruiting class, and I think you mentioned Agiye Hall, and then also, Ja'Cory Brooks is a big, tall kid, like you said, 6'3", he's about 185, a guy that's going to continue to fill out more, and I think he's going to get faster. He's got really good long speed. I mean, he can get down the field and catch the ball, Gary. People question his 40 time a little bit, but you know what? I think people would probably be shocked to realize what some of these guys' true 40 times really are. Justin Ross burned Alabama pretty badly a couple of years, as you remember, in that championship game, and he was probably a 4.78 guy coming out of high school. So, again, speed's developed a lot of times, and this guy's going to be an outstanding player, and I think Alabama's in position to land some more outstanding wide receivers, too, to continue to reload that position.
Indeed. Nice pickup for Alabama there. And, again, 4 commitments now. And a little bit of momentum, though, getting Ja'Cory Brooks. Also, big news in regards to Thalia Tonga. You and I are not surprised by this, but he entered the transfer portal and apparently is going to transfer. You would think that, Maryland with Mike Locksley might be a possibility. I've even heard Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss might have some interest. And, of course, obviously, all the U's down in South Florida. Of course, Tua is going to be the quarterback of the Dolphins. You got FIU, FAU, and the U. What do you think about that decision? I like Thalia out of high school. I still think he's a talented kid. And this, and Tua had a great career here, but it always seemed to me that Thalia might have been here more because of the family situation. I had been told coming out of high school that he would have rather gone somewhere else had it been completely up to him.
Yeah, I think so. There's been a lot of talk that he really wanted to go to LSU coming out of high school, and that's probably true. And again, I understand the situation here, and his dad, Nalu, made the decision, I think, as he does most of them. And good for him that if that's what he's going to carry through and follow through and transfer, because but I did think he had an opportunity here. I thought you remember his performance last year in 8A, that's really probably the most significant. We had an opportunity to see him, but some in the games, a little bit, but he showed some things last year in that 8A game. I thought that touchdown throw he made to Waddle on the roll to his left, scrambling out, was a big-time play. So he's got a lot of tools. Wherever he ends up, they're going to be getting a guy that certainly has a lot of potential. Now, I would think this. I think he ends up either in South Florida or he ends up at Maryland. And I think Loxley really wants him, from what I hear. And Gary, the connection, obviously, Loxley is really tight with that family. And Tua being the offensive coordinator, Tua's first year as a full-time starter in 2018. So we'll see how that kind of unfolds.
And we will. We'll watch it with interest. And I'm with you. I think he's a quality player. I think he's got a chance to go somewhere and have a nice career. But for him, he has to do what's best. And you look at Alabama's depth chart at quarterback now, and the fact that maybe he wanted to go somewhere else out of high school, it makes sense. Speaking of the Tagovailoas, Tua hasn't thrown a pass yet, but he's off to a great start in Miami with his jerseys, home and away, being the top 2 selling jerseys right now. And then yesterday, for Mother's Day, he's able to take his good fortune. And again, family's very important to the Tagovailoas, and he bought his mom a brand new Cadillac Escalade for Mother's Day. How about that?
Wow. Yeah, I saw that. A really nice black, beautiful Escalade. It was. I watched the video of it, and it's interesting, and it's amazing the jersey sales, Gary. But the white shirt, the white jersey is the number 1, and I guess the aqua is number 2 right now, and I guess Tom Brady's number 3. But it's pretty amazing that just drafted a couple of weeks ago, and now all of a sudden his jersey's the top seller in the NFL. And listen, what a thing for Alabama, huh? I mean, really, think about the notoriety that it brings to Alabama's program. Haven't had a quarterback go this high since I can't remember. Certainly a pick ahead of Richard Todd when Todd went number 6 in '76. So, this is certainly something that I think brings a lot of attention for the Alabama program as well.
Absolutely, it does. And of course, a lot of talk. It is kind of ironic that Alabama had 2 players drafted by the Dolphins, and neither one gets to wear their college number. Of course, Marino's 13 is retired, and Raekwon Davis wore 99. He's going to wear 98 because Jason Taylor's jersey is not retired, but it might as well be. They haven't let anybody wear it since he played there, so you got to assume it's going to be retired. But, it's NFL football, and I think for Tua in particular, kind of cut your own path. And if you wear 13, if something had happened, they'd said, hey, you could wear 13. You're always going to be compared to Marino anyway, but I like the idea that, and I think he'll look good in a 1. I think it's a more, I like double-digit numbers for quarterbacks to some degree, but I think 1 will fit him well, and it'll be his own number, Rodney. There won't be any, chatter about 13 coming out of retirement. I think it's probably what's best for Tua too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the main thing now is for Tua, as you know, Gary, is just stay healthy, and hopefully they can get a lot of good players around him and give him a good supporting cast, and he can have a very, very successful career. But, it is amazing where he's come. What's it been, 6 months, 5 months since that injury, 5 or 6 months? I mean, think about where he came from that day to where it is right now, how much has changed. It's just amazing.
Well, speaking of the Tagovailoas and Mike Loxley, Tua's former teammate Jalen Hurts, when he transferred, and I think we knew that he was in console with Nick Saban through all of that. But Nick Saban, talking with a Philadelphia Eagles reporter, as he's kind of done with all these guys that got drafted with the different NFL teams, he said for the record that he advised Jalen had narrowed it down to 3 teams basically. Oklahoma, and, of course, Maryland, where he had ties to Mike Locksley, and Miami, where Dan Enos had gone. And Saban said that you want to go where the best players are. Even though he had a relationship with Locksley and had a relationship with Enos, I found it interesting that Saban said, hey, who do you think's got the best players? And kind of advised him to go join Lincoln Riley, even though he didn't know Coach Riley, and go to a completely different system in Oklahoma. I found that a little bit interesting. Most of the time you might think, well, go where you're comfortable, but he didn't tell him to do that.
Well, I think, first of all, he's looking out for his players' best interest. I think that kind of tells you a little bit of something about Nick Saban. And again, he made it clear that it wasn't anything about, Dan Enos or Mike Locksley.
Yeah, nothing personal.
I know he would have, yeah, right. He would have certainly tried to do everything he could to help out Mike Locksley because, listen, and I know this isn't what but Locksley was a very he was loyal, very loyal assistant coach, even when he was leaving. So he'd have done anything to help him for sure. But I will say this, you remember we talked about it on TiderInsider TV, and we said Oklahoma is it's a no-brainer. That's where he should go.
Sure.
If we were advising him, that's where he would go. Would be Oklahoma. You have, like you said, great receivers around you, great system. It's been quarterback friendly. It's produced the last two number one picks or Heisman Trophy winners, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. So it was certainly an absolute no-brainer to me. And he went out there and being coached in that system by Lincoln Riley, I think it certainly helped him.
All right, Ronnie, a couple more topics. Zach Evans, Alabama had an incredible running back signing class anyway for 2020. But at one time, Zach Evans was a top target of the Tide. Then we thought he'd wind up at Georgia. Wound up not signing with anybody. And then all of a sudden today, reports out of Fort Worth that he is going to enroll at TCU. Are you surprised that after all the national recruiting and all the hoopla that went on with Zach Evans, he's going to stay in the state of Texas?
Yeah, a little bit, because I knew he was looking to get out of there for a while. Matter of fact, I think he pretty much had indicated to Alabama about a year ago this time he was coming here. And then, things he got caught up in the recruiting game and Georgia and, all that story. He signed with them in December and then was out of his letter within a week, got out of it. But he's extremely talented, man. I mean, that guy is one of the better running backs I've seen come out in a while, I think, just watching his tape. He's got all the tools, great speed. I mean, just everything you want. But you mentioned Alabama had a tremendous group of backs. They brought in Jace McClellan out of Texas, Roydell Williams out of Hueytown, Kyle Edwards out of Destrehan, Louisiana. All of those guys, I think, are excellent running backs in their own right. You know what, Gary? All of those guys, if you talk to their coaches, you talk to people that know them, every one of those guys are really like team guys. They've never been issues off the field, so that's one thing that you always look for.
All right, Ronnie, real quickly before we wrap this up, we're starting to open back up, but the debate rages about sports, and college football is caught right in the crosshairs. I hope we have a season. I know you hope we have a season. Joe hopes we have a season. There seems to be some in the media that hope we don't have a season, which is very curious to me. But as we sit here today on May 11th, what's your gut feeling today? Do you think we're going to have SEC football this fall?
Well, you use the word hope, and that's it. I hope, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Kind of mystified as to why some people are hoping that we don't, or seemingly hoping that we don't, because it certainly, I think, would be a good indication if we do, that people feel confident that things are moving in the right direction, with this virus and with, so I would hope that we do. And again, Gary, I've always said it's unpredictable. I still say it's unpredictable, but I certainly hold out a ton of hope. And if I had to hedge a guess, I'm leaning towards Alabama, and most college football teams are going to try to play.
Catch Rodney with me on TiderInsider TV on Tuesday evenings at 6:30 on WVOA 23, and of course for the latest on the Crimson Tide, TiderInsider.com. Rodney just continues to rock on.
Yeah, hopefully things pick up, Gary. On the players can return relatively soon, and we can, start getting back into what we like to do. And TiderInsider.com, only $48 a year, and you can get access with your credit card if you prefer. There's an address there to send a check. And The All Sports Forum is there, where there's a lot of exchange right now, and also the Quad, still talking about that coronavirus.
Hopefully, at some point, that will go away, and we'll get through this thing. Thanks a lot, Rod.
Okay, buddy. Take care.